Welcome to the War Room. Today we have head coach Mike Poeta of the University of Illinois wrestling team. He's going to tell us about the big changes there at Illinois, go through what's going to be happening with the team coming up. How are you doing today, coach?
I'm doing good, Greg.
Like I mentioned, there's big changes. It all started with your hiring. And the way I look at it, it's like ever since then, it's been Robin Hood, hit the bullseye, and then shooting a second arrow and splitting that arrow, and then a third arrow, splitting the second arrow, and so on. Starting with your hiring by athletic director Josh Whitman. Tell us about all these changes.
Well, I consider myself extremely lucky because every bullseye that I was able to hit has done just an amazing job for the program. First few were being able to retain Jeremy Hunter and Bryan Medlin. They are instrumental in developing our guys and how great of a job they do for our program. And then the next arrow that split the first one, being able to hire Ed Ruth. Now, when I got the job, Jeremy Hunter and I were kind of sitting around trying to think about who to really reach out to, who to try and hire as the assistant coach. And we really wanted to find the perfect guy. We didn't want to settle with anything. And it took about 3 months, maybe 4 months before we hired Ed because we wanted to hire a great guy and really find the right person. So we're looking at the last 3, 4 years of NCAA results. We're looking at the last 3, 4 years of world team trials, stuff like that, because I did want someone that could still wrestle. So the problem with that is Ed's been out of wrestling for like 6 years. So Ed's name wasn't in any of this stuff, and he wasn't on my mind. And didn't have any relationship with Ed, so I don't know if it was leaving a stone unturned at first, where I was like, yeah, I don't really know him. He's not a wrestling. I don't think he'll take it. That's kind of where my head was at. But the idea for Ed was from Jeremy Hunter. He's a Penn State grad also, and he's like, hey, what do you think about Ed Root? And as soon as he said that, an extreme amount of excitement came over me about the possibility. But like I said before, I honestly wasn't confident that he would take it. So I gave him a call, and within the first minute, there was a crazy connection. We were very, very similar people, very similar backgrounds. It really meshed. And Ed, his wife, and his son, they flew out to Champaign. It was like basically I put together a recruiting trip just for now a family. So instead of showing a recruit the academic buildings, I'm showing Ed and his wife the trampoline park, the skate park, all the things they can do for their kid and the family stuff. They came on Friday. By the time Ed left on Monday, not only did he accept the job, he already put in an offer for a house. So within like literally 2, 3 days, this seems right. This is the right move. It was perfect timing. Ed was in a transition in his life where he was the RTC coach at NC State, and he was kind of looking for a change. It just, well, I don't think it was just like the best fit. I don't know if he really wanted to be like the freestyle coach, someone that wasn't necessarily in the corner and an actual accountable coach for NCAA. So he was looking for a change. My phone call to him was one day after his contract ended. And obviously
Wow.
I have no idea. I have no idea of this. And it was kind of destiny.
Yeah, serendipity. That's perfect. Then there was Imar.
So I was talking to Isaiah on the phone, let's say Mayish, and I was like, you know what? We need to find a volunteer assistant. So we had Travis Piotrowski as our volunteer assistant at the end of last season. I thought that Dylan Duncan was going to be our volunteer all year because Mikey Carr wanted to go 141. That was kind of Dylan's weight. Dylan was an All American his junior or like his 5th year. He had another year, but he was ready to sail off into the sunset. Dylan's a great kid, and I think he was just ready to move on. And he was going to be the volunteer assistant. When Mikey got hurt, we needed a 141 pounder. So Duncan kind of changed from volunteer to back on the team. And Dylan did not do that for himself. Dylan was completely selfless and did that for his teammates. He really didn't want to wrestle this last year, but he said, hey, I know I can help my team in dual meets. I know I can get some momentum or make sure the momentum doesn't change on us. So, Mike, I'll wrestle for you guys this year. But I actually didn't know this. We were having a team meeting in January, and I had asked Duncan to wrestle a few times, and he really did not want to. And I respected that. I didn't push like crazy hard. He really wanted to coach. And then he just kind of saw it was a little bit of a hole for us. We had a team meeting, and Dylan just said, hey, Mike, I talked to the team real quick. He got up. I had no idea what he was going to say. And he just said, hey, guys, I just want to let you know would come back for the rest of the year. And everybody erupted and clapped, and I was just as happy as everyone else. So Travis filled in that last gap. Travis has a great job up in Chicago. He actually came down here, was working from his laptop all day long, and then would come to practice from 3 to 5, and then be back doing his actual career. And then going to the Big Tens, going to the NCAAs, he's got his laptop on the bus. He's doing his work the whole time. He was working his full-time job and then being able to be our volunteer assistant. But that wasn't going to have any longevity. So that position opened up. I was talking to Isaiah, and I just casually said, I'm looking for a volunteer assistant. You got any ideas? And he's like, let me think about it. And I was like, how about you? Just kind of joking. I didn't think it was realistic. And literally from like a joke, it started kind of getting a little more serious. I feel like it's a necessity for me to now call Chris Pendleton and just say, hey, me and Isaiah are kind of talking about this. Out of courtesy, I just want to let you know. And I feel like that's the right thing to do. Isaiah and I kept talking, and it worked. And I was extremely grateful that everything lined up. And we've posted like crazy about the accolades of our coaching staff. We truly do have, credential-wise, the best coaching staff in the country. I was at practice the other day, and Mark Johnson and Jim Heffernan come to practice and are around the program pretty regularly. And those guys they're gods to me. They're father figures. They're bigger than life, what they mean to me. And I was sitting back and I was telling them, I'm like, guys, I am the luckiest guy in the world right now. Look at this. You got over here Isaiah Martinez is working with someone. Over here, Ed Ruth is working with someone. Here's Hunter. Here's Medlin. And then as a grad assistant, we have Christian Kanzler. And Kanzler, I love that kid to death. He had a hard time putting it together in competition. But when it comes to technique and how talented he is and how tough he is, he's as good as anybody. So Christian in the room is amazing for these guys. So, and then also having Christian, and they're working with these guys and they're wrestling with these guys. And I'm just like, how the hell did I land in this position to have this in front of me? So yeah, the staff came together and it was amazing.
And then with the duels now happening at State Farm Center, it can't be much better than that.
We needed it. Huff was too outdated. We needed the spotlights to be able to do the highlight tapes, the tunnel that the guys come out of for like the entrance to wrestle. My goal is to make that the next Carver Hawkeye. I'm going to do everything possible to fill those seats. I want that place rocking. It's professional. It was just needed. And I know the Illinois kids, especially, it means a lot to them having their state tournament in there. When I was on the team, I begged Mark Johnson and Jim Heffernan to please have a duel in there. I don't know if they were against it, the school wouldn't allow them or what, but I wanted to wrestle there so bad. It never happened, but I feel like this was a necessary move if we want to be a top 5 team.
Yeah. And then you look at the next bullseye or splitting the arrow is the new wrestling only facility, which is going to be pretty much right next to State Farm Center.
Yeah, it's going to be a 10-second skip or jog into the doors.
That's crazy. And it looks beautiful.
Greg, it's so unbelievable. I know we'll talk about it a lot right now, but when the AD told me that we did it, we got to the number we needed to get to, it was a weird moment. For anybody that's been part of Illinois wrestling, that was the twilight zone because we have been facility cursed. There's been so many times where we've been so close and it just didn't happen. I mean, 10, 15 years of like one step and we're crossing the finish line and something catastrophic gets in our way. And the catastrophic one 2 years ago was COVID. So we were ready to announce a brand new big dollar small sport arena in downtown Champaign that was going to have volleyball, gymnastics, and us, all our training facilities attached to it, and then an arena, very similar to what Ohio State did. And in February, it was pretty much done. They were going to announce it in May. And then from February to May in 2020, some wild stuff happened during that time.
Yeah.
And then that door got shut, unfortunately. And then, so I got the job, and the AD had a couple options. And I felt like they weren't quite adequate enough for how long we've been waiting, where I think this team is going, what I think that our guys, I don't want to say deserve, but I want to put them in. So I was like, Josh, let's hold off on some of these things that we're thinking of right now that just, it's really not doing it right. And I said, I'll work as hard as possible, and I'm going to get this money. I'm going to do this. And between myself, the fundraising people at Illinois, the AD, Josh Whitman, I really can't say how much these guys stepped up, and we're working tirelessly every single day to make this happen. And then he called me in his office and he said, Mike, we hit the number. And it well, excuse my language, it was just a holy shit moment.
Well, then, on top of all that, the university announced nearly $6,000 for student athletes who make academic progress. So you've got that going for you now, too. And that's not nothing.
No, that's some serious money. It's yeah, they're not getting like $100 on break to go to Potbelly's and Chipotle and Starbucks. Like this is some serious money. So I want to take care of our guys as much as possible. They have really perfected their craft to the point where they're serious Division I Big Ten college wrestlers, and I like that they're being compensated for that. So the fact that everybody can get that, I was really excited when that started happening.
It really is a lot of money. After 4 years, that's $24,000. After 5 years, that's $30,000, as long as they read the books and answer the question.
And it really is. Basically, all it is if you finish the semester, got through the semester, we're going to give you this money. That's pretty much what it is. It says academic progress. We take academics very serious, but the word potentially could be misleading. It's just if you're here, you're going to get it.
That's fantastic. Well, I think people need to know that too, because that's news to me. Now, Coach, I want to change channels here and talk about this year's team. Can you tell us anything about heavyweight and 197?
Yeah, so Luke Luffman has been dealing with shoulder problems for a while. He has not redshirted, and Luke is extremely young. Luke started college at 17 years old. Heavyweight's the best it's ever been in college wrestling, and you just got some very strong, athletic, really good guys. And Luff is good enough. He's right there with all those guys. But a year of maturity, I think now puts him in the conversation of beating all those guys. Absolutely. On a more regular basis.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to figure out how to get Luff a red shirt because I know when he comes back, he's going to be lights out after just a year of getting some more facial hair and more armpit hair. And so with me wanting to do that, with him having shoulder surgery in May, because you're not coming back until January, February. Shoulders are tough to come back from. They take a while with wrestling just because how extended you are. All right, he's going to redshirt this year. So we wanted to put as many great guys that we could at heavyweight because I knew that we needed to get Zach Bronigal and Dylan Connell in the lineup. I mean, those are extremely tough kids and really don't want to have one of them sitting. So it made sense for Zach to go up to 197, and then Matt Roblewski's put on some pretty serious size. He's in the 230, 235 range, and he's going to be our heavyweight this year. Well, he's going to be one of our heavyweights. He's going to be challenged by Mike Bosco and some other guys, but he's going to be in the mix of there's another really good heavyweight we have now, another good heavyweight option. Yeah. And then most likely, Zach Bronigal at 97. Zach has proven that he can beat the top guys. The last 2 weeks of last season really showed it when you're talking about wins against Benz and Caleb Romero and
Marcus Coleman, too.
Coleman from Iowa State. So very, very big time, serious wins against. I think those guys are really good. So everybody the last couple weeks of the season really saw what he was made of. We want more. Just getting to the round of 12 is not where we want to be. For myself, the team, him, but kind of a glimpse into what he can do. So, and I actually think Zach wrestles better against bigger guys. That's what I've always noticed with him in competitions and in practice. Smaller guys are just for his style. It doesn't line up as well. So I actually think it's a better move for him to be at this weight class, regardless of trying to separate him and Kano.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know how you keep those two out of the lineup anyways. It's terrible what happened to Luke. Everybody loves Luke, but it's probably the opportune time for him to gather that red shirt. Like you said, get some facial hair and get some man strength too.
Thing is, Luke has always been great. I think that just like, let's say, maturity-wise, I don't think he's been dealing with the exact same even playing field, but it's legitimately, in my opinion, just an age thing. I mean, Luke, without a red shirt and being extremely young, I think he was just a little disadvantaged. So I think this is going to be great for him. I'm extremely excited to watch him the next 2 years after that.
Yeah. Well, tell us about 125, 149, and 174. What's it look like? How are you going to decide who starts?
So Justin Cardani also had shoulder surgery. His was sooner, so he'll be back a lot sooner. Probably start off with Maximo Renteria. But Justin, you're talking about an NCAA qualifier, a guy that has had some serious wins. So he's obviously going to have his opportunity, but Maximo is going to start the year out.
Okay. What's 149 look like?
It stinks being asked questions like this because you never want anybody on your team to not think you believe in them. But there are front runners. There's three guys who I think have shown that I can mention them specifically, and it's Kevon Davenport, Jake Harrier, and Anthony Federico. We'll see. I think Michigan State's going to determine a lot of who gets the nod moving forward after that. Our first two competitions, Michigan State, and then we're going to a tournament in Missouri. That'll be a good chance for those guys to prove that they're the guy.
Yeah,
So they're going to wrestle a lot of similar guys, and we'll just kind of take that information and take it from there.
that's fantastic. So planning at this point, at least, to put all three in the weight class at Michigan State and let them go.
Yeah, and that's the way you have to do it. For me, wrestle offs are if guys are just completely even in competition. That's where I'd be leaning more towards wrestle off stuff. These guys wrestle each other all the time, and I don't care who wins between them. I really couldn't care less. My my thing in practice is I want the guys to have their intensity really high, always offensive, and that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, winning is important, but in practice, I want to see effort. Where wins and losses start really mattering to me is when they're wrestling Penn State, Ohio State, Okie State, Iowa, like that. That's when it matters to me, and that's the guy that needs to be out there, the guy that can perform the best when the pressure's on, under the lights, and beating guys from other schools. So first competition, Michigan State Open. The next week, Missouri. We can bring everyone to Michigan State. We can bring a good amount of guys to Missouri. And that's when we're going to really figure out the lineup. I want to see who's doing what against the other schools.
Yeah, yeah. But what about 174? I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm curious. I know everybody else in the world who follows the Illini are curious. So what about 174? How's that look?
There's three names of guys that are really separating themselves and just doing a great job. And that's Edmund Ruth, Trey Sizemore, and Caden Earn, all state champs in very, very tough states. Caden's an Illinois state champ. Edmund's a two-time Pennsylvania state champ. Trey Sizemore is an Ohio state champ. So, you got some really good guys. I know that they know that being the guy is on the line and it's not going to be easy. And I do like that when one of the guys stays after practice and is doing extra, the other guys tend to stay after also then. They're motivating each other. So we're going to get a better product than if there was just one of those guys there. And
Yeah,
for who's the guy, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be Michigan State. It's going to be Missouri. That's when we're going to really see who's going to be the guy for the following weekend when we wrestle NC State and Buffalo in duels, and only one guy can go out there.
yeah, yeah. So change the subject again, change the channel. The new 5 starts rule for redshirt freshmen. What are you guys
Yeah.
doing about that?
Well, so the Michigan State Open, it's kind of goofy how it is, but the new guys, they come with us on the bus. We pay for them as if it's like a real competition and they're not redshirting, but it's only for them. So anybody that's older that we're contemplating redshirting, they're going to have to, like it's always been, drive to the tournament on their own, pay for it by themselves, get their own hotel room, registration, all that stuff. So basically the first year guys, first semester, if they're going to compete, it has to be for us. They get 5 competitions to still retain the red shirt. And that's only first semester. Second semester, then they can wrestle unattached.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
And
well, that,
and one thing I do foresee, we're wrestling at Missouri. It's a really short week. We're going to leave for New York 3-4 days later to go out to Albany and wrestle NC State and Buffalo, and then a few days later, Bird has the All-Star Classic. So I definitely see us bringing a true freshman on that trip to wrestle probably the duel against Buffalo to give Bird a little bit of breathing room because he's going to compete at 3 different events in about, I don't know, 9 days.
yeah,
For the new rule, that's kind of how, for starters, we're going to do it.
yeah. As far as the redshirt freshmen, the second semester they can go out on their own. They have to pay their own ticket. Is that the deal?
Yeah, so that's how it's always been. That's what they would normally do right now going to Michigan State. But
Okay. And when you see someone like Dylan Connell who goes out to wrestles 31 matches as a redshirt freshman, does that put a gleam in your eye?
I love it. I love it. And Dylan has been doing amazing for us. Dylan's dad is a lot like my dad. He's tough. He's a tough mother effer. And my dad and Dylan's dad, they put their kids in a lot of, let's say, uncomfortable positions, a lot of competing, a lot of training, but it's so for the best in us. I see very similar ways that our parents went about it with us. And I know that my dad was about me competing all the time. And I think Dylan got more matches than I would have even recommended. Not that it's bad, but I think Pat was encouraging him and doing what was best for him. And getting 31 matches is it's not easy to do as a redshirt. Kevon wrestled a lot of matches his true freshman year also. I remember like Askren, his true freshman year. He had like 50 matches. No, it's these guys like it's about competing. It's about loving competing. It's about being great at competing. So
Yeah.
the more you practice competing, the better you're going to be. So I think Pat Connell's encouragement to Dylan to drive him to these places and get him these tournaments was great for Dylan.
Yeah. I got one more question for you, Coach, a basic one. Who showed up over the off season?
33 guys on the roster. So I would say approximately 33 guys.
Who killed it? I mean, who absolutely killed it?
So many guys killed it's too hard to point out guys, I mean, after practice it's tough when you're saying the intensity wasn't great or you guys weren't offensive enough, because there's always guys where the intensity was high enough and they were offensive enough. But I would say the majority of the guys worked extremely hard. It's a fun time in our program right now. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of great chemistry. Guys come into practice early, they're laughing, they're playing games. It was like that all summer, and the guys are enjoying it right now. They're really enjoying just being part of the program. We're working extremely hard. I know there's times in practice that we're killing them. They're being pushed extremely hard. They're exhausted, but really, I don't think anybody was lackadaisical this summer.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. And Coach, I want to thank you for your time. I know you're an incredibly busy person. Thank you so much. Good things are coming.
All right. Thank you, Greg. You are the absolute best.